Hello and welcome to Practically Speaking Houston. This is the official podcast of the Houston chapter of the Public Relations Society of America. And I'm your host, Veronica Sopher. I have the opportunity to come to you and introduce some amazing members that we have and some great practitioners in the Houston area who are really making a difference in communications, whether it's public relations, advertising, marketing, visibility strategy, digital communication, you name it. We have a group of amazing, talented, creative folks who just do some great work. And we are going to introduce one to you in just a second. But before I introduce our guest, I want to make sure I take care of some housekeeping. If you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We don't want you to miss any episodes of Practically Speaking Houston. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop us some comments and my guest and I will be sure to connect with you. So let's go ahead and get this episode started. We have joining Julie Fix APR. Hello and welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited about our conversation today. There are so many things I want to do with your name, by the way, but I'm trying to keep the puns to a minimum today.
Why should you? Everybody else does not.
That's true. That's probably true. Well, Julie, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey in communications and your areas of expertise. One of the things we love on the podcast is getting to know some of our members and really getting an understanding of some similarities and some ways that we can collaborate.
Well, thank you, Veronica. I will start with the key factor. I'm old and I've been around a long time, and you do not have enough time for me to give you too much background. But I will say that one of the things that I am most proud of career-wise is the privilege of being elected to the PRSA College of Fellows. And I have spent much of the last 16 years laboring in the vineyards of the College of Fellows and loving every minute of it almost.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. And for those members that don't know, can you share a little bit about what that is and what that means?
Sure. The College of Fellows is not just an honorary organization. It's sort of considered to be the pinnacle of a career point in PRSA's continuum of learning and progression of career. It requires that you be in the profession for 20 documented years and that you have given exemplary service, created exemplary strategies, tactics, programs, events, whatever your niche is, and have risen to the highest of ethical standards. It's not an elite group by any means. Mm-hmm. You do have to be accredited to join. We have, I think at this point, about 350 living members, but the organization officially got started, I think in 1988, and the first inductees were some of the legends in public relations history, and they did not have to be accredited. So, but from that point on, all the members have needed to be accredited, except gold anvil winners, PRSA's basically highest honor, and they come in without any worries about accreditation.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's so exciting because I can only imagine the transitions that you've seen throughout your career in terms of public relations. Tell us about your experience in the Houston market. Did you start in a particular sector? What were some of the journeys along the way, I guess?
Well, like so many others, I started in journalism. When I said I was old, when I was in school, there were not many full-fledged collegiate programs in public relations. Those really came out of the state of Florida, and they hadn't arrived in Texas yet. But my father was in public relations, also a journalism graduate, and he actually was involved in PRSA Houston when he was here with his career. And it was there. And I made the leap, went back to journalism for a while, and then made the leap again and have not looked back since.
Yes, like so many of us. Yeah, for sure. And when you say you made the leap, tell me a little bit about what that looks like. Just because I think we get so many young people going into some of the collegiate programs that you mentioned, and they have a perception of what a career path might look like, whether it's journalism or public relations. And then they get into this space, like many of us, and we took a leap. We went from one side of the table to the other side of the table. Share with me a little bit about what that looked like as you were doing it.
Well, for me, it was a personal as well as professional
Mm.
decision. I loved my job, absolutely loved working for a community newspaper, but I was literally working 5 nights a week, covering city council meetings, commissioners court meetings, um, supervising reporters who really had no training, and trying to teach them how to cover news and write it so I could edit it. But all that time, I was a single mom, or about to be a single mom, and I wasn't spending time doing the things that I needed to be doing personally
Mhm.
for my daughter.
Mhm.
And it made sense. I'll go in, I'll hang out my shingle, and we'll see what happens. And I was amazed. People actually hired me to do things. And I thought I would start out doing mostly media relations work because
Mhm.
certainly that's was my niche. But I ended up managing political campaigns, which was a hoot. Really enjoyed that. But politics
Mhm.
have changed, campaigns have changed, and I stepped away from that table about the time Fort Bend County exploded with uh, political rivalries. But it was fun to be here at that point in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that's so great. And I can for sure, I feel that too, just because a lot of us got into the political space and then found a different speed, maybe depending on where we were seasons in our lives. And I think it's really important for young people to remember it's okay if you want to step away or do something a little bit different for a different season of your life. And no judgment on those who don't. I mean, there's a lot of us who brought our kids along to school board meetings at night and to city council meetings at night, and the kids are doing their homework in the corner. So it certainly is a journey for everybody. So, Julie, tell me a little bit about some of the things that have stayed the same in your vast experience. What are some constants when it comes to public relations, especially in the Houston market?
Well, I think the basics have to be high ethical standards that we adhere to in the way we practice public relations and in the way we counsel bosses, clients, what have you, as to how they need to manage their affairs. And that takes courage because you often have to just basically sit down the CEO and say, look, my friend, this isn't going to work and this is why. So I think
Hmm.
it's imperative that we not only maintain our understanding of what our ethical responsibilities are, but be able to explain the benefits to the organizations that we work for. Because
Hmm.
well run, ethical organizations don't have a whole lot of reputational issues.
That's so very true. And is there anyone out there that you think is doing a great job? Any company or organization that you've come in contact with or observed that you point to when you're talking to people about ethical standards? Is there anyone out there that's just doing it really, really well?
I think there are several, and I don't want to, I'll leave somebody out if I start naming names,
Sure,
but
sure.
and I think we're lucky in Houston, in the greater Houston
Hmm.
area, to be blessed with some of those forward-thinking, um, willing to look past today's bottom line to tomorrow's bottom line and the tomorrows after that, because often it's a long-term proposition.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And so tell me a little bit about your involvement with our chapter in particular. Rich legacy, obviously. You've seen the ebbs and flows of the markets and the sectors changing. But tell me a little bit about your involvement in PRSA and why you think it brings value as professionals are coming into the market and considering joining our chapter.
Well, I've long been a proponent of membership in public relations organizations. And in addition to PRSA Houston, I was very active in the Texas Public Relations Association until it bellied up. in the late 20-aughts. The But in the Houston chapter, I did serve on the board in officer capacities, and I was Assembly Delegate for an incredibly long period of time, which I thoroughly enjoyed because it gave me an opportunity to interact at the national level. And at one point, Houston PRSA was well regarded and well recognized. And I think over the years, there's been a bit of a disconnect in the greater Houston area between the chapter and the international organization. And I would hope that at some point in time that rectifies itself. And I see a lot of that in young people that are in leadership positions now, and it makes me happy.
Yes. I would agree. And I'm on those last few chapters of my career as well. So I can say the same thing. I'm excited for the young people taking the leadership reins, because, having come up through PRSA in the late 80s, early 90s, and then transition into PRSA shortly thereafter, you think back and you're like, oh, I remember that conference. And then you realize it was 30 years ago. So, it puts things in perspective. But I think we have a really great group of young leaders that are coming up, that are experienced, that are very digitally minded, and innovative. And so that's very exciting for me as well. To young people who are coming into the profession out of school now, what are 2 or 3 pieces of advice you would give them as they look at internships and start applying for jobs and are doing what they call side hustles and extra work? What are a couple of pieces of advice you would give to those young professionals entering into the workforce now?
Don't lose hope. Remain confident in yourself and your ability. The jobs will come. It will take longer than you ever thought it would in most cases, but definitely, before you graduate, from the time you are in your freshman year and you finish the basic courses, go for internships. And that is a sacrifice because most internships do not pay. But it's critical to get that experience on your resume, because it's really not what your grades are. It's what you have demonstrated knowledge and skills in that will get you the job that you deserve. As you know, I taught at the University of Houston for 20 plus years, and I try to be very real with all of my students about it. It's not going to be what you think, and a lot of my students have drifted into other branches of most of them are in some type of a communication position, but a lot of them are in totally different sectors. And it was just, that was a choice and a decision that they made, and I would hope that they were all happy. But the other bit of advice is, in the long ago times, the first job you had tended to lead to a career progression path. That doesn't happen much anymore. So you're never going to be able to stop some of the hustling, not side hustles, but making sure that everything about you digitally is clean and up to date, because you never know who's watching, and that you maintain that online digital profile that shows examples of your work so that people can find out about you before they reach out to you about a potential job. I was very lucky. I had very few jobs along the way. Most of my outstanding PR work was done before computers ruled the world.
Right.
And that's a little sobering at times when you think about that. But the other thing that I would stress as so important is get involved in PRSA.
Yes.
And go ahead and pursue accreditation as soon as you can.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic advice. Fantastic advice. And you've worked with so many students, and so many of them look to you as a mentor. So Julie, how can people connect with you? Are you active on LinkedIn? How do people usually network with you if it's not in person?
I love the in-person networking, and I do a
I
lot
do
of
too.
mentoring. I do a lot of mentoring. In fact, right now I'm mentoring someone in a journey toward accreditation, and I have done a lot of that and thoroughly love it. But I am on LinkedIn. I'm not active. The
Mhm.
very best way to connect with me is to give me a call or email me.
Perfect.
Old school. I'm sorry, but
Yep.
I am.
I like it. And it's so funny you say that because I actually mailed someone a card recently and they posted an image of the card on social media to talk about how I mailed them something. But I remind people all the time there's more than one way to connect with someone. It doesn't always have to be online. If you can't make it in person, mail a card. It's okay. We can buy stamps. So I love that you said that. Well, Julie, we will put your email address in the show notes so that if anyone's looking for a mentor or looking to connect or maybe pick your brain about a project or something, they can reach out.
I'm also listed in PRSA's Mentor Connect program.
Great.
So the resources available from PRSA are growing every day, and
Mhm.
they're making the membership a lot more valuable.
Right. No, it's so and when you talked about being a proponent of memberships, that's exactly what I tell young professionals. The levers that you can pull with your membership are unlike anything you can do outside of a membership. Having, being able to watch webinars, being able to connect with certain people, getting their direct contact information versus trolling them on social media, it's so much easier. So I too am a huge proponent of that.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great, Julie. It was fun visiting with you again. I always love to connect, and I love the PRSA history that you bring. And I'm just so excited about our young leaders coming up and making sure that our chapter is visible and relevant in a really important space.
Happy to be with you. Thank you very much.
You bet. All right, everybody. Make sure you connect with Julie if you are looking for a mentor or you want to get some additional resources. Her contact information will be below. We hope you liked this episode of Practically Speaking Houston. This is the official podcast of the Houston chapter of PRSA. And I'm your host, Veronica Sopher. We'll catch you next time.